Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us. And welcome to today's webinar, Holiday Shoppers 2025, Spending Smarter, Not Less. I'm Georgina Nelson, founder and CEO of TruRating, and I am thrilled to be joined by our incredible Chief Data and Customer Officer, Gareth Johns. Those of you who know Gareth will know that he has an incredible skill at taking huge amounts of data and ultimately making it actionable and interesting for those of you on the store floor and in retail. So we are going to be discussing the findings from 23,000 consumers, which we've been polling over the last few weeks. So this is data taken from August the 1st to October the 15th across the UK, North America, and Australia. And we have been asking how consumers are feeling about price and other market trends as they shop and check out. So, Gareth, thank you so much for joining us. Give us the headlines. What are you seeing in the data?
Right. So thank you for having me. So we've been asking, I guess, three specific polling questions linked to what consumers are feeling kind of in this run-up period to the holiday season. And alongside the polling questions, we've got other questions which we've been asking throughout the year with our retailers, one of which is how they feel about value perception, which we ask all the time. So I'll be talking about that one as well. But just to kind of give some headline figures on the polling questions, the first question we asked was, do you feel that prices have increased recently? And there, 2/3 of the consumers said yes. And if we look at consumers who were asked while they were grocery shopping, that increased to almost 3/4. So consumers are definitely seeing prices going up. So we sort of asked a similar question, or I guess a follow-on question with different consumers of, is price more top of mind recently? And here again, that was even higher than the customers that had noticed the price increases. So even where maybe they haven't noticed so much of an increase being made by the retailers, they're still feeling the pinch and still making price a more top of mind subject. And then finally, we asked whether customers have become more conservative in their spending recently. And here's was more of an interesting fact that actually consumers really hadn't reported an increase in the levels of kind of conservative spending or holding back on spend. So while price is important, the message isn't that they've stopped spending. And actually, if we look at from early August as we get through to the end of October, consumers are actually become less conservative in their spending as the year progresses. So I guess overall the findings are that yes, they've definitely noticed price is more important to consumers than ever before, but they are still spending. And whether that's in both grocery and convenience, where you would say there's a degree of, I guess, having to spend through necessity, we're also seeing a similar picture in some of our retail, fashion and luxury brands as well. So I think the overall message, consumers aren't spending less, but they are probably spending more thoughtfully.
What does thoughtful spending actually look like? Can you break that down and give us some examples?
Yeah, so it means that, and this is coming from some of the other questions that we ask of consumers kind of through the same period, they are planning their trips more. So there's a lot more online research going on ahead of time. People are more sure of what they're going to buy, the specific item that they're going to buy before they come into store. They've probably spent more time on the retailer's website or other websites researching the products. And that's both from kind of, the descriptions and the details of the product, but also the price comparison of where they can get that product. So there's a lot of that going on, I guess, before they even walk into the store. They are also doing price comparisons at the shelf. So I think, website, obviously online is with us everywhere. So there's a lot more of that going on. Within grocery, it means that customers are telling us that more of them are shopping with a list. And we know that when customers shop with a list, they generally spend less. They are more, they're more thoughtful with their spending. They only buy the things they need. So shops tend to be smaller in grocery as a result of this. And what we're also seeing is that the customers are grocery customers are buying less items in any one trip, but doing more trips across the week or month. But they are actually in some of those retailers, they are dropping certain categories. So it's not just that they are changing the way in which they shop, they're also changing where they shop. So they're splitting their grocery shop across multiple retailers. And then if we look at value perception, that has also actually, it's something we've been tracking for years now. And it's something that we notice that there are multiple things that you can do to impact upon value perception. So it's not, value perception is not just price, but it can have a real impact on whether or not customers come back.
I see. So it doesn't seem that consumers are necessarily becoming more frugal, but just more strategic. So all these behaviors like price checking and planning, it sounds really that consumers are just wanting to feel that they're more in control of their decisions and their spending. And especially when there's so much uncertainty and people are seeing price rises and hearing about, product availability, tariffs, etc. I wonder whether it's just a sense of feeling that you can, more closely control the ship when you deploy these kinds of behaviors. I guess your final point about, let's dive a bit deeper onto this value perceptions point. So we're saying that shoppers are walking into the busiest season, peak season, and they're price conscious, they're planning, they're being selective. Obviously for a retailer, what strategies do you think they should deploy, to obviously with an eye still to profitability, but how they win this consumer over?
Yeah, so I think if you're trying to kind of either improve or at least maintain your value perception in this market where consumers are more price sensitive, more thoughtful, more strategic, the actions that you take can effectively, they can improve your value perception, but they can also undermine that value perception. So I suppose I've kind of broken it down to sort of 4 themes, I would say, things that we see going on in different retailers and how they have an impact on that value perception. So the first point I kind of labeled as ensuring promotions create value, or create value but not doubt, I guess is how I've termed it. And what that means is that promotions are obviously an important point of that kind of value perception. We know that consumers really want to get a great deal, and then when they feel they get a great deal, that has a big impact on the value perception. So selective promotions are incredibly important to that sort of sense of a deal and the overall value perception. And we have seen that when retailers sort of move away from promotion, that really starts to have an impact on value perception. But at the other end, those promotions, they can go too far in the other direction. So if you have too many promotions going on, it effectively trains customers to only buy on promotion and almost to wait for the promotional period and to cherry pick the deals. But it also creates a sense of, I'm never quite sure what this price is anymore. I'm never quite sure if I've got the great deal, because I'm always worried that next week there's another great deal coming around the corner and I really should have waited. So I think what we've seen is that if you kind of go too far one way and you have too many promotions, then value perception starts to take a bit of a hit. If you have too few, or if you take all your promotions out, then again that has an impact as well, because consumers feel that they've really lost out on the sense of a deal. And we have seen cases where a lot of that promotional spend has been redistributed into loyalty programs, which at face value sounds like a way of taking what is a sort of a blanket promotion and being more targeted with it through a loyalty program. But I think it's kind of brings me on to my second point about, I guess just generally about loyalty programs. They work best from a point of view of improving value when they're seen as a thank you rather than as an IOU. So what I mean by that is that loyalty programs and the benefits that come from a loyalty program, they don't create loyal customers and is that sort of as of themselves. A loyalty program is a means to understand customer behavior over a longer time period. So to better understand that customer and to provide a means to communicate with that customer. And so by doing that, or by giving that a capability, a consumer wants some sort of return, some sort of value exchange, and they get that in the form of loyalty benefits. But I think what we've seen with a lot of our kind of loyalty programs and the way that they've been redesigned over the years is that there's many different ways that those benefits can be delivered. And what we've seen time and again for improvement on kind of a value perception is they work best when those loyalty benefits are simple, easy to understand, and are delivered in the moment, and they're sort of immediate benefits. And what happens quite often is that if you use the loyalty program to try and deliver or to address a certain behavior, you end up with loyalty programs that are quite complicated, or loyalty programs that defer the benefit. And when the benefit gets deferred, the value perception really starts to drop off. So I think loyalty programs that are inclusive and that are immediate are the best. So member discounts, birthday rewards, anniversary rewards, those types of things that come immediately work really well. Things about collecting a whole load of points over a really long period and hitting certain thresholds, they tend not to work that well for loyalty programs and value perception. And then I guess my third one is, I think you'll like this one because, as George always says, every store is a snowflake. One of the big, I guess, differences that we see in the way that we collect data is we're able to collect data of every single store. So I think for a while now, people have known not every single customer is the same, and some customers have different drivers of why they shop certain stores. So most people have moved from you shouldn't treat every customer the same. But they then end up treating every single store the same, and assuming every single store has got the same mix of customers. And that's definitely not what we've seen, especially this year. So this whole push on value perception over the last year has impacted different parts of the US very differently. And small pockets of stores where value perception is incredibly important, where price sensitivity is much higher, versus other parts of the country where we really haven't seen any difference. So that could lead you to, I guess, in an extreme, it could lead you to kind of much more kind of localized pricing. But even if you don't go as far as localized pricing, I do think thinking about where you stress your value message versus where you focus on your service message, or where you focus on your product exclusivity message, can really differ by different parts of the country. And then I think my final point, sort of related to this idea of customer I talked about earlier, about customers moving between stores and shopping multiple retailers at any one point in time. And that is that nobody really owns the customer. Every single person that you would say is your customer is everybody else's customer as well. And that creates an opportunity as much as it does a kind of a risk. You're never sure of that customer, and you're never sure that you're going to get the next sale from that customer. But likewise, you've never really truly lost a customer, and you'll always have the opportunity to get them back. And what it means is you've really just got to focus on winning the next shop, rather than thinking that you have a customer that you have for life. Those days are sort of gone. I know when I started over 30 years ago now in grocery retail, we used to talk about customers.
You can't be that old.
We used to talk about customers as lapsing, and then we used to call them long lost customers, and we had this segmentation, and then they would go, and you'd think, well, that's it, I've lost them. And that doesn't happen anymore. With the retailers we work with, 90% of customers, even the ones that you lose for a couple of months, they'll come back again by the end of the year. So you never lose somebody, but you're never really sure of them either. So you have to work a lot harder about making sure you win them every single time. And price and promotion is obviously an important part of that. Value perception is an important part of that. But customers value other things as well. And actually, when it comes to repeat shopping, what we've noticed that has been really interesting is that the things that matter most to a consumer in a shop that makes them most likely to return are the things that staff can really impact upon. So things like making sure the aisles are clear, making sure that enough tills have been opened to minimize kind of checkout queues, and being friendly and helpful to customers. Those are the things that get a customer to come back more often, much more so than some of the standard things you think, like pricing and availability and stuff like that. So yeah, I guess those are my 4 areas of things that we should be focused on to improve value perception.
Really interesting. Thank you so much, Gareth. I guess, yeah, when I'm thinking of our listeners and how they take some of these things over practically to enforce in their organizations, when you talk about some of these things like price optimization, stock availability, um, you can you can see why people over-index on those things, because it's obviously much easier for them to measure with transactional data and they can track it. But some of the other things you talk about, whether that's service strategies, clear aisles, queue times, those are, yeah, often the untangibles, or far harder to actually measure in a store environment. What advice can you give to that?
I mean, yeah, that I guess is at the crux of TruRating in a way. Like those are the things that we can measure by asking customers at point of payment about that immediate experience that they've just had, about whether or not the staff were friendly or helpful, or whether they had to queue to check out, or whether there were boxes in the aisles, or whatever. Those types of things that maybe are very difficult in other means to measure. But we do that, and we can measure those things, and that's a starting point. I think the thing then that's really useful is being able to give that data and that understanding to the stores so that they can then work on improving them. That's the thing about that. There's TruRating we're moving into now with this idea of true coaching, where effectively we're using AI to uncover the opportunities for each store and direct the store managers every week on the 2 or 3 things they should really be focused on improving, using the store's kind of inbuilt learning and development teams as to, this is what a good store does, this is how they do these things, and this is what makes it work. So yeah, I mean, a shameless plug, but I think those things have been intangible for a really long time, and yet they can have a really big impact on repeat visits, more so than some of the others. So whatever way that you can measure those, I think at the very least, making sure that teams within the stores realize how important they are to that overall value perception that a customer has of that brand, the reasons why they would spend with you over somebody else, the reasons they'd come back. Yeah, the staff play a massive role in that. And yeah, even if you can't get to the point of measuring it, and even if you can't get to the point of improving it immediately through data, at least letting your stores know that they are that important, and especially in this period as we come up and as we think about value perception, I think is a really important message.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I guess when you look at a product like TruRating and True Coaching, I do believe that it's where the rubber hits the road in terms of being able to give head office the confidence that they're focusing in on behaviors which are going to impact on how much people spend, how often they return, but also giving that direction to the store teams so they know exactly what to do and how to action in it, and are really empowered. I think that's so important for those teams, that they, as you say, they know that they have the ability to really win that customer in that visit and that day. And yeah, as we know, it's people power. That's where the heart of retail is. So Gareth, thank you as ever. A world of information which you've shared with us, and I know everyone on this call will be yeah, extremely grateful for you sharing your insights. And as we've all learned today, yeah, consumers aren't spending less, they're just being more strategic. So it's about arming yourselves and being aware of how you can win them through your door and to come back more frequently. So as always, if you're interested in anything which we've said today, want Gareth to come and do a deep dive with your teams, or want to hear more about True Coaching, etc., as always, hit us up and we would love to chat to you. And if we don't speak to you before, have an incredible festive season. Thank you so much.
Thank you.